Businesses in the areas hardest hit by the earthquakes will know within the next 48 hours, and almost certainly sooner than that, what the government's rescue package will offer them. Private insurance simply won't cover Kaikoura's inability, for example, to get tourists in and crayfish and paua out. As well as the immediate damage to business structures, revenue will collapse for many businesses. It has already done so. Led by Stephen Joyce, the Ministries of Business, Innovation and Employment, Social Development and the Inland Revenue Department are working on a business support package. Here's the Prime Minister, John Key.
I think the package will look somewhat like the Christchurch earthquakes package, where we paid employers that didn't have insurance, which would be the bulk of them, so that they could keep their employees in place. And even if they still continue to trade and make some money, we acknowledge that they'd be making a lot less. The challenge here, and this is where it could get a little bit, the need for at least the Parliament to respond, is that the whale watching people said to me that because the seabeds come up so much, you've got a situation where they would only be able to float the boats for 2 hours a day. Now, that's obviously not commercial. So to fix that problem, one assumes you have to dredge. To dredge, they need enabling legislation, because if they don't have that, that would be my guess.
So, Prime Minister, sorry to interrupt, because I hadn't heard that before. So in that area where the wharf is, where you go off on those wonderful trips to see the whales, the seabed has risen so much there that they can only go out at very high tide?
That's what they're telling me at the moment, is their best guess would only, in the height of the season, will only be for 2 hours. And that's obviously hopeless, you know. And the other problem you've got in terms of the movement in the seabed, I mean, all of these things, I guess, need to be confirmed, but they're saying in some parts it's moved up to 5 feet. And so what's happened is that's why the paua fishery, so much of it is out of the water. And what they're doing is they've been walking along 40 miles of coastline trying to either put the paua back into the ocean and the crayfish. But, of course, a lot of it is going to be wasted. Because, you know, it'll die and they neither can eat it nor save it. And then the second problem is, if you then allow them to continue to fish at the same level, you could really deplete your stocks. So it doesn't take very long to see that while superficially you can do some things to support them, it feels to me like we're going to need to be a bit more creative and potentially do a bit more to really get them through this.
A bit more for longer too, by the sound of things, because this is way bigger than I think initial assessments had figured on.
That's my guess. I mean, if you look at the road north, those slips, they really are just enormous. And I just took a picture out of the top of today's on my iPhone. But the entire mountain, it's hundreds of thousands of metres of rubble, have essentially, just in one slip alone, engulfed the road. Now, I think they're saying they've had, 1,600 aftershocks and 100,000 slips. Now, not all of them clear on State Highway 1. And I think the southern route they can clear much more quickly, and the inland route, to a degree, they can get open. But the northern route, the greatest optimist in the world, I still don't think would tell you can do it in a couple of months. I just don't see it. And not unless they're going to dump all of that material in the sea immediately. And even then, if you could, that's a mammoth task.
There's no way it's going to be in a couple of months, is it? And so there needs to be realistic assessments about that right now, doesn't there? And so the route out is inland and eventually, hopefully, south along the coast. The thing is, and no one is blaming the government for the earthquake, not even your most vehement critics, but Civil Defence told us in 2010 that come a major earthquake in this area, State Highway 1 would be gone. It is gone, and we're kind of fossicking around for a plan B. And I wonder, should there have been a better state of preparedness for exactly this contingency which was predicted?
Well, I think the issue is that often they can see the vulnerability. What they can't resolve quickly is redundancy, if you like, an alternative. So in a way, it's a bit like saying, if you think out of Wellington, everyone can see that without Transmission Gully, you've got, you know, only one entry and exit point. But of course, it's still taken us, you know, whatever it is, probably 90 years, isn't it, of discussion and planning for an alternative route. Now we're working on it, but it's not quick. And I just looked at, I'm not a road builder, I don't understand these things, but looking at today, if you didn't go around the coastline, which is the argument, and you had an inland route, I don't know quite where that would go, but I just know from the work we've been doing at Waikato Expressway, one assumes it would be very expensive and a very major piece of engineering.
Prime Minister, two questions, because I know you need to jump on a plane and we appreciate your time. One is, will we be looking at a ferry service pretty quickly from Wellington to Lyttelton, because it's going to be much more difficult, isn't it, to get north from Picton, and that road won't cope with the same volume of traffic that is currently on State Highway 1, right up to 4,000 cars a day?
I think they are going to have to look at something like that. I don't have any advice on it at the moment, but one thing I do know is that the rail network has been completely bowled over. Now, if you think about, as you said, there's alternative roading, and that will work for trucks to a certain degree, so you'll get some freight through there, but you aren't going to get what was on the rail, and the rail can't be put together quickly because it's also running along parallel to the State Highway 1, and we know that piece north is a real problem. So one would have thought if they want to have an alternative there, the only thing they can do is something like coastal shipping. Now, again, I haven't seen any advice on it, but I'm just surmising, but I would have thought that's a logical potential solution. The only problem with that, of course, is that the more people you put on a boat, the more people you take away from the business activity.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And Wellington, you mentioned Wellington before. What do you think about how many buildings in Wellington, which we know is our most earthquake-prone city, have been seriously damaged and compromised by a quake that didn't actually take place directly under Wellington?
Yes, I think rightfully so, the obvious questions need to be asked, and I think that's going to happen. As I said in Parliament this afternoon, the reality is that if you look at what the earthquake, building a building to the earthquake code means, it doesn't mean it'll never sustain damage. And it's clearly structural damage to both the Defence House and SACS New Zealand, but amongst others. But what it means is that it should be safer in the event that there is an earthquake. Now, I don't know, I mean, Defence House I'm a bit staggered by because it's very new and it was built to a very high code. So I am at least, a little bit surprised by all of that.
The Prime Minister, John Key.